Uncle Mark?
Yes.
I don't know if you know this, but they're just... I was playing with my nieces and nephews, and they're just such little angels.
They are such little angels, aren't they?
I don't know if you've ever dealt with the little ones, but they're just such angels, and I just love them so much.
They're so sweet. It's perfect. Yes, absolutely. I've known some angels in my time, and not all of them were Charlies.
Hey,
Doug, what do you know about angels?
The little kids are such little angels until they reach the ages of between 2 and 47, and at which point they're just assholes.
Yeah, I'm waiting for you guys to fucking get to 47.
Well, I do know a little bit about angels I'd like to talk about today. So by the time most of our listeners hear this, we will be in full Halloween season. Ooh. Although at my local department store or grocery store has already skipped Halloween and Thanksgiving and put out Christmas decorations.
Yes.
For real. A sin for which I feel no inclination towards forgiveness.
Yeah.
Halloween is a particularly relevant holiday for this show, as it is kind of a nexus of various and sundry religious beliefs and traditions, as well as all kinds of woo and fears about ghosts and demons and witches and dark magic. Unfortunately, a season of fear and darkness is what we call our reality these days, and because, unless you're a brain-dead Trump supporter, there will be no trick-or-treating this year for obvious reasons. So I thought we could have our own mini spooktacular and talk about some of the most terrifying monsters the human mind has ever conjured. I am talking, of course, about angels.
What?
As we'll discuss, the term angel can mean many things, but most broadly it refers to a being of some kind that is higher in the hierarchy, the heavenly hierarchy, than humans, but lesser than God or gods. And since there is quite a chasm between those two poles, there are many, many things in between. So many, if not most, religious traditions have some sort of angels, and of course these beings are as syncretic as the deities they serve. But for the purposes of our discussion today, we'll stick mainly with the angels discussed in the Bible, primarily in the Old Testament. We'll talk about the New Testament angels and the Book of Mormon angels only for contrast. Most of us, at least in the Western world, when asked to think of an angel, think of beautiful humanoid creatures surrounded by light, often with white robes, white wings, halos. These are the angels, after all, that we have been raised on and that litter Christian art. Or maybe we think of the hapless but lovable beings trying to understand humans and their free will while serving to protect and defend them. Think Nicolas Cage in City of Angels, or Henry Travers in It's a Wonderful Life. Or maybe we think of the badass warrior angels in such films as Constantine and Legion. These angels are roided-out, gun-toting action heroes, but remain indelibly humanoid. Or perhaps, and most unlikely, we think of the scrappy rapscallion angels in films like Michael and Dogma. Hopefully not. The only thing all these depictions have in common is that they are all wrong, or at least very incomplete. Biblical angels, particularly the further you go back into the Old Testament, hardly resembled humans at all, and are so strange and nightmarish that you would have expected to find them in a Hieronymus Bosch painting or an H.P. Lovecraft story.
Or both.
And undoubtedly those two drew some inspiration from biblical angels. The term itself comes from the Greek word angelos, but that is based on the Hebrew word malach, which roughly translates as messenger. Indeed, conveying information is one of the primary purposes of angels in the Bible, but not their only one. One of their other major roles in the Bible is destruction.
Oh, I thought you were going to say trumpet playing.
That comes near the end.
Okay.
In 2 Samuel, David is punished for his sins by having an angel release a pestilence on his army that killed 70,000 soldiers. The angel was so bloodthirsty that it nearly destroyed Jerusalem before God stayed its hand. Of course, we all know about the angel that God sent into Egypt to kill all the Egyptian firstborn. That didn't happen, as Uncle Dan covered back in episodes 106 through 109. If you remember, that angel not only killed the firstborn humans, but the firstborn of all animals as well.
It's good to be thorough. I prefer a thorough angel.
Right.
Yeah, you never know what if you don't know what the instruction means exactly, you just do all of the things.
Yeah, exactly. And then there's a story in 2 Kings 18 where an angel killed 185,000 Assyrian soldiers laying siege to Jerusalem in one bloody night. And that's a story. Okay, the massacre of 185,000 soldiers in about a 6-hour period. I didn't even know about that until I was reading up on this stuff somehow.
Wow. So and it says 185,000?
185,000 soldiers.
Wow. That's a stink. Can you imagine?
Right.
Imagine being in charge of cleaning that up.
Exactly. So these stories alone should shave a little sheen from the image of angels, but wait until we talk about what they actually look like. Now, the angels we've just talked about, if they are described at all, are pretty much just human-like. No wings, no halos. Much later in the Bible, some even get names. Daniel is the first person to give an angel a name, and that angel is Gabriel. But we also get Michael and Raphael as well. The angels that came to Earth.
I think those are Ninja Turtles, actually.
Yeah, all the Ninja Turtles.
Was there a Gabriel?
No.
No, they were Renaissance artists.
I know.
Michelangelo, Donatello. I don't have to tell you about 80s culture. You were there. Yeah.
The angels that came to Earth and had sex with humans, as very briefly described in Genesis 6, were probably also Malak. However, these humanoid angels are far from the only heavenly beings in the Bible, and depending on who you ask, they actually rank near the bottom. Now, because the Bible is as much of a cacophonous mess as the first presidential debate, there is not a clearly described hierarchy of heavenly beings, so quote-unquote scholars have for centuries tried to make sense of it all. For the purposes of today's segment, we'll stick with the hierarchy created by Maimonides in the 12th century.
I thought you were going to say my mom.
She probably made one.
Probably.
Yeah.
I'd love to get a hold of that. Maimonides made a hierarchy of heavenly beings in the 12th century. And according to him, there were 4 main divisions of heavenly beings with many subdivisions. They were in order of greatest to weakest, the Ophanim, Seraphim, Malak, and Cherubim. So in this scale, Malak, or the messenger angels we are most familiar with, only outrank the Cherubim.
How do you spell Malak?
Oh, in the Hebrew, it is MAL''AKH.
Okay. So quite different than Moloch, the god.
Right. It's a whole different. Yeah. It's not. I don't think they're etymologically related at all.
Good to know.
Yeah. So, by the way, for context, the model designed by Dionysius in the 5th century had the cherubim near the top of the hierarchy, second only to seraphim. So it's all just a fucking mess.
Yeah, right. He was an asshole.
Plus, everybody's just making it up anyway. Yeah. So
exactly.
You put them where you want them.
Exactly.
I like those chubby little winged bastards, so I'm going to put them really close to the top.
Well, now, you probably ought to forget about those little cute nude baby angels we commonly refer to as cherubs.
What?
That is an interpolation that worked its way into many centuries later by Christian writers and artists, probably based on Cupid, actually.
Yeah.
They say a fat baby's a healthy baby.
Who says that?
What's a fat Malak like?
They do.
Who's they?
Don't worry about it.
Okay. You just
get out of my business.
All right. The cherubim of the Bible are animal-human hybrids.
What?
And they're the first angels mentioned in the Bible when they are tasked with protecting the entrance to the Garden of Eden after the fall of Adam. However, they are not described in detail until the book of Ezekiel, the book where all the magic happens, that Uncle Mark slogged through back in episode 85.
So, I didn't listen to that, so you're going to have to remind me.
I didn't either.
I know. I don't think anybody has. Listeners, if you haven't listened to it, go back and don't. Ezekiel 1:5-14 says the following. Also out of the midst thereof came the likeness of 4 living creatures, and this was their appearance. They had the likeness of a man. Okay. And everyone had 4 faces, and everyone had 4 wings. Oh, it doesn't sound like a man to me. Yeah. And their feet were straight feet, and the sole of their feet was like the sole of a calf's foot. Again, not terribly humanoid. And they sparkled like the color of burnished brass.
Oh, fun.
Yeah, that's nice. And they had the hands of a man under their wings of their 4 sides, and they had their faces and their wings. I know it just sounds like redundant. And their wings were joined one to another. They turned not when they went, and they went everyone straight forward. So basically this thing just kind of went forward and backward, side to side, without turning.
Yeah.
It sounds like a really bad remote control car that you got at the discount toy store.
Well, also, it is a complete fail to describe anything.
Exactly.
Can you imagine if that was like a cop taking a crime, a crime scene report? It's like, dude, no. Wait, what? Start over. This doesn't make any fucking sense.
Well, okay, officer, it looked just like a man, except
exactly
everything.
And the sole of his feet were like calves, but his feet were long and straight.
And it goes on. As for the likeness of their faces, they had the face of a man and the face of a lion on the right side, and they had the face of an ox on the left side, and also the face of an eagle, presumably sticking out the back.
Not a man. Any part of that, except the first part. Everything else is not a man.
Exactly. Thus were their faces, and their wings were stretched upward. 2 wings of every one were joined to one another, and they covered their bodies. So 2 wings flapping, 2 wings wrapped around them like a dress. As for the likeness of the living creatures, their appearance was like burning coals of fire, and like the appearance of lamps. It went up and down among the living creatures, and the fire was bright, and out of the fire went forth lightning, and the living creatures ran and returned as the appearance of a flash of lightning.
I think I have a theory as to why I've never heard this before. Because literally everything you've just said, you can't picture anything.
Okay.
There's literally nothing to picture there. It is just word salad.
Yeah.
So everybody just ignores it.
I agree. I think that most believing religious people just breeze over this because, like, what the fuck? However, people have tried to depict this. If you Google search cherubim, you'll see what people have come up. And
there's some really interesting takes on it.
Yeah, it's pretty horrifying.
And they're all nightmarish.
Nightmarish. Whatever the fuck this thing is, it is not a fat baby. Yeah, I mean, it's got these, other heads sticking out the side and back of its head. It's wrapped in its own wings, and it's flapping with these 2 hooves sticking down. It's a bit weird.
Yeah.
But it's clearly related to the Babylonian Iyamasu or the Hittite griffin or the Egyptian sphinx, which all kind of served similar purposes of guardians in those cultures.
Kind of chimeric beings where you take the attribute, the strong attributes of many strong animals and just kind of pack them together, and then you say, there.
But if you
I feel like it's you take a bunch of drugs and then you just keep talking and someone else writes it all down.
Exactly.
Well, I would say too, as a migraineur, that is the actual name of those of us who suffer migraines. When I get visual migraines, they're kind of a nightmare and kind of a giant pain in the ass. But you see all kinds of crazy geometric shapes and lights moving, and it's very possible in a time before people knew what the fuck that was. That's part of it.
Yeah, I mean, you absolutely. In this time and place, you didn't know why you had dreams. You certainly didn't know why you had nightmares. So, and if you ate the wrong thing, eat the wrong mushroom, you certainly didn't know why what was happening to you was happening to you.
Right.
So, moving up my Maimonides' scale, we've already talked about the Moloch. So let's move on to the Seraphim. These creatures are described in the book of Isaiah as follows, and it's a little shorter, mercifully. Above it stood the seraphims. Each one had 6 wings. With twain he covered his face, and with twain he covered his feet, and with twain he did fly. And he cried unto another and said, Holy, holy, holy is the Lord of hosts. The whole earth is full of his glory. That's it. That's all we get of the seraphim. So there's not much to go on here. And if you look this up on Google too, it's pretty. They're actually quite beautiful. Because it's kind of covering its head with 2 wings and the rest of its body with 2 wings, and then it's flapping. So it's kind of this ephemeral
There's nothing
ball.
to see. It's just you just see a bunch of wings.
A bunch of wings.
Too many wings. Yeah, I think it's too many wings.
And it's, the way they're covering themselves with wings is very much like Lieutenant Uhura in her famous feather dance in Star Trek V. If any of you have not seen that, make sure to not.
Is that Star Trek V, The Undiscovered Country?
No, that's oh fuck!
Stumped you, motherfucker!
No, it's coming to the Undiscovered Country 6. 5 is the Final Frontier.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and probably the worst one of all. Anyway, these angels are.
We're going to get emails now. That's going to happen.
We're going to get buried.
Stand by that one. Okay, the seraphim are kind of the choir that accompanies God. And they sing that holy, holy, holy song all the time.
It's a great song.
Yeah.
It's really, really catchy.
You might remember them making an appearance all the way at the end of the Bible in the book of Revelation, which we covered back in episodes 58 and 60. Even then, they were constantly singing that song. So these angels...
It's kind of the wet-ass pussy of its time, really.
It probably was.
Oh, God. Okay, so everything we've talked about so far, well, nothing like what we commonly think of as angels, at least have attributes of humans and animals that, although alarming, are at least familiar. Well, strap the fuck in for the last and most powerful angels on the list, the Ophanim. I don't know if it's Ophanim or Ophanim, but I'm going with Ophanim.
So is that an Irish name?
No, that's out of the book. That's out of the Bible.
No, okay.
Ophanim.
I'm Patty Ophanim.
Patty Ophanim.
I'd agree to disagree.
Sorry, everybody in Ireland.
Wild ass Irish angels.
These angels are only referred to once in the same fever dream chapter of Ezekiel that described the cherubim. This gets weird, starting in verse 15. Now as I beheld the living creatures, and he's talking about the seraphim right now, or the cherubim, pardon me. Behold, one wheel upon the earth by the living creatures with his four faces. The appearance of the wheels and their work was like unto the color of beryl, and they had four and they four had one likeness, and the appearance of their work was like a wheel. When they went upon four sides, and they turned not when they went. As for the four rings, they were so high that they were dreadful, and their rings were full of eyes round about them four. And when the living creatures went, the wheels went by them. And when the living creatures were lifted up from the earth, the wheels were lifted up. Whithersoever the Spirit was go, they went. Thither and their spirit to go, and the wheels were lifted up over and against them, for the spirit of the living creature was in the wheels. Almost done. When those went, these went, and when those stood, these stood. And when those were lifted up from the earth, the wheels were lifted up over against them, and the spirit of the living creatures was in the wheels. So
I feel like I'm taking crazy pills.
I know.
Yeah.
It's fucked up.
That is not how you describe a thing.
I know. But if you can, if you read it 10 times, and you'll finally kind of come to what he's describing is a creature shaped like a gyroscope made of crystal covered with eyes that floats up in the sky and dashes to and fro with the cherubim.
This is Ezekiel's wheel.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So if you want to do a Google search for Ophanim, do that. Just don't do it right before you go to bed. It is super fucking weird.
Right.
And if you take the Bible literally, then you've got to try and literally square that circle. So, you believe that there is some heavenly creature that basically is two interlocking or, gyroscoping wheels covered in eyes, and that it is the most powerful being in heaven aside from God. Wow. So there's that. The description is so strange, even for the Bible, that some people believe Ezekiel was describing a UFO, or more likely was in the throes of a significant psychedelic drug trip.
Yeah.
Now, these aren't the only strange creatures in the Bible. There was, of course, the Leviathan and the Behemoth, as well as the many strange and bizarre beasts in the book of Revelation. But these are the heavenly ones.
Yeah.
And then towards the end of the Old Testament and throughout the entirety of the New Testament, as long as you leave out the book of Revelation, which I recommend you do, we only ever encounter the humanoid Moloch. So, the Seraphim and the Ophanim are kind of relegated to the ancient religion, the ancient part of the religion. And just for some contrast, I mentioned this earlier, the angel Moroni and the other various angels that visited Joseph Smith during the Restoration were all humanoid. In fact, just complete straight-up people. And part of what made being Mormon such a drag is the doctrine of eternal progression from the book of Abraham that we made fun of back in episode 155. I'm sure Joseph thought he was hitting pay dirt here, but because the doctrine basically states that God was once human, just like us. He has progressed to his current station. Angels are therefore simply former humans in their own stages of progress. There's no mystery. There's no strangeness to God and his angels. They're just dudes. How much would I have preferred to look at artist depictions of the cherubim or the Ophanim rather than listen to General Conference? Or listen to Trent Reznor's version of the Song of the Seraphim rather than listen to the Mormon Tabernacle Choir? God, being a Mormon sucks. So parents out there listening, don't fall into the trap of buying the same costumes that everyone else is getting this year. Instead of dressing your kids up as a sexy Fauci or a coronavirus, why not spook the fuck out of your friends on Instagram by dressing little Timmy as an angry Ophanim or a particularly shouty Seraphim? So
I just figured out the Ophanim, by the way. I just figured it out.
What?
You guys remember Superman 2, right?
Yeah.
Oh, totally. Yeah.
it's
where-
it's Zod's prison. Is that what you're saying?
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right.
No, was it Zod's prison, or wasn't it where they kept that crystal that Zod stole?
No. Zod and originally, in the beginning of the film, Zod and the two other prisoners are stuck in the
That's
spinning.
right. You're right.
Crystal
wheels.
thingamajig.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. That's where they're standing trial. They're in those two hoops that are going, whoa,
Yeah.
whoa, whoa, whoa. That's right.
That's that's as good a representation of an Ophanim as I've seen.
Just put some eyes on it, and you got it.
So there you go.
happy Ophanim Halloween, I guess.
Yeah. So there's that. The Bible continues to make a ton of sense and be very relevant to our daily lives.
Yeah,
Yes,
that all
indeed.
happened. All right, let's move on.